So today it's about pensions, it's about investment issues, and the fact that State Pension Trust SSNIT has justified decision to review the IT contract aimed at improving the collections of their pensions. Now they call it the Operational Business Suite, the platform that is said to cost about $66 million. Now for some have argued that really it's about the fact that the old management or the new management just trying to pursue the old management because they're coming from a different political coloration and all those things. But the current boss of SSNIT, that is Dr. John Oforitin-Crane, disagrees. He believes that we are trying to ensure that monies that we're giving out or we give out, we're getting some good returns on them.
If you hire somebody to manage your affairs, you're going to have to judge the person on how he performs. To be able to know how the person performed, you have to be able to establish a baseline as to where the person started. And then once you draw that line, then any ups or downs from there is attributable to that person. And so this audit is a baseline audit. It is not a forensic audit. And so on that score, I'm very confident to tell you that it is not a political witch hunt.
How much is this auditing going to cost the SSNIT?
I think, and the number was around about 500,000 Ghana cedis, thereabouts. Thereabouts. It's between 500,000 and maybe 550,000. I don't have the exact number.
Okay. Even though the chairman mentioned, but I couldn't capture it very well, he did mention that the period under review. I want to find out is it from 2016? Which period under review are we talking about?
Okay, so we asked PwC to establish the baseline as at March 31st, 2017. So that means they can go back as far as they need to be able to do that.
So it could be since the establishment of the SSNIT.
I mean, in theoretically, right? Okay. Because SSNIT's assets, have accrued since its establishment. But every year there are, audits. We have auditors; they give accounts and so on and so forth. So you may not need to go by that far because you have to rely on certain financial statements and things like that. But in terms of things that are recent happenings, then to the extent that you cannot quantify its effect, or maybe its effects have not been fully crystallized, then they would have to look into it and try and put a judgment on what those things are with respect to the balance sheet.
Okay, you did mention some 4 key areas, which is HR, finance, ICT, and one other which I couldn't recall immediately. But I want to find out, are you doing this audit into your finance investments like the banks, the insurance, and those other companies?
Yes, as we do this audit too, one of the terms of reference is that they should also give us some benchmarks and also recommend some best practices. So let's talk about finance. We have an investment portfolio. Any prudent asset manager is supposed to make sure that their portfolio is well diversified so that you can withstand the shocks that the economy may throw at you. So, when they go through this, not only are they going to try and tell me what my true balance sheet is, but also they can make recommendations as to how we diversify and point out places where we've actually gone out of kilter with our mandate. So I don't know what the other part of your question was.
Those companies, are they going to give recommendations as to whether it's worth investment or you should stop investment? Is that part of their mandate or their terms of reference?
Yes, I mean, to the extent that they identify losses and that those losses are not just attributable to just the market moving against us, but maybe structurally we are not set up right, then yes, they should be able to advise us, and then we will then take that into consideration, and that would help guide our decisions as to whether we exit such investments or we stay in, because there are some investments that honestly are not yielding very much for the trust. You know, we get involved in things that we call corporate social responsibility, but you know, we have to do some soul searching and ask the question: are we doing our social responsibility? Is it really to the pensioner?
And that was Dr. Freighton Crane trying to justify why they actually going about this audit or this whole process, the $66 million of this whole project. We understand from the old management that it involves trying to automate the data of about 4 million or even about 40 million data of the contributors to the scheme. It also involves automating the entire operations of all the offices across the country to ensure that there are off-site blocks that people can go and work with. But is it really justified? Is it the best form of collecting SSNIT contributions around the world? We'll be getting the views of Andrew. He is a lecturer and also an insurance expert. Thank you for joining us in our studio here for Marketplace on it. But you've heard the story about this, the cost of it as well, $66 million for such a project. Is it fair or not?
In terms of fair, it depends. But let me just ask.
What's the best practice outside?
For example, when it comes to pension management, which is more, this actually relates to administration. It's all boiled down to what? Data. So how do you get your data, for example, record and all that? But you see, the question is, for example, if the initial cost, for example, starting from around 30, somewhere over 30 million, and then going to 66 million, then that is where, you know, myself and others will raise questions, because you see, definitely data is important, because pensions administration is all about data. Because you see, one of these things is that there are delay in paying benefits, and therefore there are complaints from beneficiary and said, oh, every time, you know, you go to finish, it will take you 6 months. But meanwhile, you have been taken off your payroll. So why should you wait 6 months? You see, so this delay actually inure to disadvantage of the beneficiary.
Andrew, so I always struggle with the mention of your surname, so help me, Andrew Agblome. Agblome. Thank you so much, but Andrew Agblome. But help me out, because what is the best practice? I mean, is it the deployment of these IT platforms? And some people are saying that 66 million, we understand that it's a whole modules that have been put together. One is looking at how do we digitize the data of these contributors. Also more of an off-site offices as well, on-site offices as well, and also putting the personnel there to manage this. Let's look at other countries even within our region. What is the best practice in collecting this data?
You see, in terms of pension management, somebody will say that there isn't any, somebody will say that
simple
this is
rule of collecting the data.
Or the best, but the most efficient way to be able to, you know, make sure that the contributor is happy, you are able to get the contribution on time, and then you are able to make investment decisions, and then our final analysis is to pay benefits. You see, so if you have a challenge with these data collections, for example, when the contributor makes the payment, you are not able to, you know, for example, with these OBS. Now, yesterday I was even at a SSNIT branch. I just walked in there, and at the airport branch, you know, they brought that, it's like an ATM machine. Where you can access, put your biometric card, access it, and then get your data and all that. Fine. But you see, the whole idea is the cost of how much those things could cost.
So that is the second question that I was coming to you. That there have been questions about how SSNIT itself is managing our funds. To spend $66 million on collections. I don't have the ready figure now as to what we collect even last year for contributors. Now, I know in taxation, they will always say that you don't spend more to realize that tax. $66 million compared to what we are taking every year from competitors or contributors. Is it value for money?
For me, it depends again. If you said, because at the moment, that is $6 million to use, because if you look at the whole OBS package, like you say, it's not only for contribution collection, there's a compliance, benefit payment, and then also as well as what? Registration and all that, biometric, and then including what I described to you at the branch level. But when it comes
Andrew,
to
I
the
want
issue
you to
of
hold
data,
on
we
just
can't get those information.
a little bit of minute, because
Right.
I have the former Director General of SSNIT, Ernest Thompson. He actually helped to implement this project that was signed in 2012. Mr. Thompson, I call him Senior. Good afternoon, and you welcome to Marketplace.
Yeah, good afternoon.
And how are you doing?
I'm fine.
So, Mr. Thompson, let me find out can you help us with some education on this whole IT, is this suite or whatever platform or modules that was actually deployed some time ago to help with the collection of pensions?
Okay, let me start from this perspective. What did we have before 2012? What we had was an internal software we wrote ourselves, right? We had to collect, we had to convey data on pen drives from regions to head office. We had corrupt data. In fact, on 2 occasions that the law was changed, SSNIT had to forgive penalties because of data issues. So we didn't have a reliable technology. Indeed, when the law was to be changed to the 3-tier, that was one of the key issues which faced the National Pension Scheme. That is the background which led to the attempt to go for a new software. The point number 2 is that this software or this project, let me call it a project, it's not just a software, it's a project, went through international competitive tendering. Companies bidded, both external companies and internal companies. There was evaluation of the tender, and an external consultant was also involved in it. Right. Eventually, those who were selected, a project team went to Malaysia to meet the team which won it, although they had and of course they had a Ghanaian. All this took place in 2012. All the adverts you can see in the newspapers at that time, it was well advertised before it went to PPA, and PPA approved the project.
I get you on that, Mr. Thompson,
Now,
but can you help us?
Let me, I'm coming.
Okay.
This took place in 2012, and then I came in 2013. Right. And that's how the project started. Now, let me also make one point very clear, because I heard an expert you interviewed maybe on Joy News, not on TV, talking about the software. Nobody has said that the software, the solution, cost 66 million. No. The software is a line item within the project, and that is not 66 million. That was even paid to procure it before I came in. But the whole project, most probably at the time that the new management is talking, had reached 66 million. Now, this project, let me explain very well. It's not only the deployment of the software, which is made up of different models, right? And therefore, it's a very big, comprehensive software, whatever you call it, right? But then, the point I just want to make is that there are other key projects which went with it, that went to the 66 million. A key one is the digitization of all social security records of the country which are with SSNIT. That is 40 million worth of records. These are, you can see them, if you go today to the records department near the former fan mill, you see the hard copies there. These were digitized over a period of two years. And this also involved purchase of scanners, servers, deployment of staff. They worked in shifts, midnight in the day, and then the second shift comes in the evening to the next day. That is part of the 66 million. Right. Apart from that, a state-of-the-art contact center was also built, which has even won an award at ISA level. That is there. It's part of the 66 million. we had to do a portal, both intra and external work. Right. This is what now enables people to go from their house. They can go into their computer and do whatever they want to do and check on Social Security. That is also part of the 56 million. We also had to deploy terminals. Now, if you go to the 52 branches, you see that on the wall are what you call terminals, like point of sale terminals, like if it was a bank, you call it where the cash point, where you go and put in the card. This also is part of the project and part of the 66 million. Now, the biometric cards that you are seeing were all imported. It was part of the tendering. Right.
Mr. Thompson, let me try and come in here.
Let me please finish. Give me a chance to finish, because people need to understand these things. Because I've never said that I was defending 66 million for a software. I spoke of a 66 million, if it's 66 million today, right, which has been used, okay, for a complete project. Now, the biometric cards, you have 4 million people. Today, how many people have been biometric? And bear in mind that we were registering everybody again, those who were members before. And since 2012, when we started going, every month new people entering, new people are always entering Social Security, are registered and issue cards. The destruction rate of this card, nobody knows. Cards get destroyed. We have to issue new ones. There were prices for all these things in the contract. There's the integration. This is only for operations. We now have to integrate this software into the other softwares we have, like the Oracle Financials that we use. Because in each branch, we have accountants who are receiving the money. So there is huge implementation charges involved. These are all part of the project. So I'm saying that it is a project which had so many components. Right.
Mr. Thompson,
we are using IBM servers. Let me just finish. When even we finished, they had to do the encryption to avoid people hacking into the national social security system that we have now deployed. And that is also very costly. So please, let us get these things well across.
Thank you so much, Mr. Thompson,
Right.
and I hope you've rounded up on that one.
Let me finish. Even after the software had been deployed, the various divisions wanted more customization of the software. They wanted more functionality. That is not new. There's a cost to it also. So I'm saying that if today 66 million had been used, of course I left office in January, you get me? And you saw that the Director General was saying that they are doing baseline audit to know where they have reached. What did they take over? When you interviewed the GM MIS, he said they are using the software, but there are some few loose ends to do. In deploying such a massive project for the whole national pension scheme, nobody expects it to be perfect from day one.
Mr. Thompson, because of time constraints, and I will beg you
let me make one small point. This is the software which, after we shut down the old one we wrote, and this has been used by SSNIT from 2012 all the way up to today. This is what is being used today to register everybody, to receive contributions. I've even left out one. You know that currently, banks, you can go to the bank and pay directly into our system. It's also part of the 66 million project, because there's a network to pay for. And we have network providers. Right.
Mr.
So
Thompson,
I'm saying that, look, there are a lot of things involved in the project. I don't think PPA would, in 2011, 2012, approve a project that go and buy a software solution alone 66 million.
Mr. Thompson, I appreciate your time so much. Mr. Thompson, Thompson is the former Director General of SSNIT, sharing some views with us on why they had to settle on this $66 million contract for this whole IT project. But Ernest, Andrew, you've just been listening to him, and he's justifying the decision to pump this amount of money into this whole project. Is it worth it? or could he have gone for a cheaper solution to this?
Yeah. As a contributor and also as a, how do you call it? How would I call it? A contributor first, and as an economist, I will always
and an analyst as well. You monitor development in the sector.
Sure, I always monitor the development in the sector. I'll be interested in what is the minimum cost as much as possible when it comes to public sector purchasing and procurement issue. So that's why I was discussing the issue, saying that it depends, because you see, we have to have a full details of what was done, because these are projects like he did indicate. So we have phases. So what was the initial project cost from the beginning? You see, then now that we are at 66 million, I would have liked to have some understanding that, okay, from the beginning, this was cost. But if you look at the whole intention behind the thing, it's beautiful. Because
but the cost is a problem. In 1 minute, Andrew, for you, do you think that SSNIT is doing well in terms of minimizing the cost of admitting this or managing this whole pension funds?
For me, when it comes to cost, in 1 minute, when it comes to cost minimization, I will boil that to regulation of SSNIT coming from the National Regulatory Authority. You see, at the moment, you have SSNIT under, I would like to say, Minister of Finance, and then, the regulator under Minister of Employment. You see, so if you have the Board of Trustees there, who probably are not licensed, these are concerns from the unions and then the labor, you see, where the trustees on the SSNIT board are not licensed by the regulator. By the ones and the private entities are licensed. But when it comes to the cost issue, that's what I'm saying. That I say NPR always give the benchmark as to how much you should spend. But here there is no benchmark to give that. Okay, this is the cost, because when it comes to the private, you can't go beyond 2.5% of the asset value.
I said 1 minute, but in 30 seconds as well, the preparedness of SSNIT. And you think we need to review the whole module of SSNIT when it comes to this pension administration to help bring down the cost?
For me, looking at SSNIT now, I think we still have some way to go when it comes to the new pensions implementation, like I told you about, the board being licensed and then other things. But in terms of reforms, yes, then that could be a broad reforms in terms of maybe unification of all the other pension schemes against the SSNIT, so that we can have it as a basic pension scheme as the new law intended it to be. But at the moment, I think with the deployment of this new system, as they said, it's going to facilitate quick benefits payment and then contribution, and people have gotten card like I have a card as a contributor.
Thank you. I was talking about time, but it looks like the discussion is getting very interesting. And whilst the thing is good, time is not your good friend. Whilst you're talking about investment, whilst you're talking about pensions, let's see how we can empower you to try and value what investments are when it comes to our investment tips.
Investment Tips is brought to you by Daffing Finance, Deposits, Investments, Borrowings and Advisory.
Average expected financial profile. On the average, you'd have to check your income disbursement annually. To be able to invest or save moderately, you could apply the following general disbursement pattern. 60% of your income could be on living expense, food, shelter and clothing, 15% on repayments debts incurred, 10% on charity, donations or religious activities, 10% into savings or investment portfolio, 3% on insurance needs if required by circumstances, 2% on others. To start investing, account first for every income you're likely to make.
Investment Tips was brought to you by Daffing Finance, Deposits, Investments, Borrowings and Advisory.
It looks like SSNIT is in the news and they will just not go away. Now, if you look at the financials of most of the commercial banks, they hold a significant holding in these commercial banks. Now, there's talk about the fact that economists will say, all other things being equal, the Bank of Ghana might announce new capital levels for these banks. That is, they need to have this capital before they can do business in this country. Let's talk about it going high as much as 520 million Ghana cedis. So is SSNIT actually prepared for pumping in fresh capital into these banks when they're actually reviewing the operations? Let's again watch Dr. Tinkrine sharing his views on this, on what will guide that investment decision in those commercial banks.
The stock market hasn't been doing well lately. I mean, as you know, from last year and the year before, especially for the banks, they are all reeling from provisioning for the debt, the BDC debt, right? So all of them have had to take write-offs or provisions. And what that does is that their stock prices have collapsed. And for those that even paid dividends, a lot of them have struggled even to pay dividends. So that is, I would say, an economic systemic thing. And that's where diversification comes in, because, if all the banks are suffering, then maybe there should be some other parts of the economy where if you were invested, maybe you could balance things out.
So you are likely to divest some of your investments?
I think we should. It's only prudent that we should. We have an investment guideline even within the trust, which we are reviewing. And preliminary, just looking at the numbers, tells us that we are very heavily overweight in real estate.
Wow.
Okay.
Let's still stay in the financial sector and specifically the banking sector. SSNIT is significantly involved in many of the banks. You invest in so many banks in the country. The BOG is moving to increase capital requirements. Are you ready to inject investment into some of these banks to meet the capital requirements?
It's a good question. Now, as you know, this is a work in progress. Yes, we are shareholders in a few banks. And, as and when these banks come up with their plans, be it consolidation, there may be the need to call on shareholders to pony up some cash. That's a real possibility. So as and when we manage our liquidity and we look at our investments, we have it at the back of our minds that we may be called upon as shareholders to pony up some cash to basically support the consolidation agenda that some of our investee companies may have. But it's early days yet, as you know, and we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Will you advise some of your banks? I mean, I know you have more than 5 banks. Yes. Will you advise 2 or 3 of them to merge so that they can have, strong background?
I think that question really emanates from the management of those banks, the executives. I mean, if the MD sees an opportunity and says, I want to go for this bank and that bank, and they come and they say, hey, if we consolidate, these are the areas that we can cut costs, and this is how it's going to make the consolidated entity better, that proposal will be put in front of me, but it has to start from them. And as I told you, I'm focusing on the P&L, right? Okay. I am a P&L guy, and as long as it's going to make me money and it makes sense, I'll find the money to do it.
That proposal will have your blessing.
Absolutely.
Okay, final question on this. We know you are also invested in GCB, the latest takeover, which is the biggest in the banking sector. Many have criticized them for not engaging the shareholders before going ahead. What will be your response to it, finally?
Well, the final chapter on that transaction hasn't been written yet. There are, the communication that we got, which is the same as what the Bank of Ghana put out, was that, they needed to do this, and GCB was deemed the right entity to take it over. Issues as to pricing, I don't think that has been resolved yet. So I think at some point they'll probably have to come to shareholders and get us to vote one way or the other.
And from investment issues, we hopped into some banking development. Now, apart from the investment tips, maybe some advice to you. Can you walk to your HR department, ask them, are they making those deductions from your salary and making those contributions to SSNIT? So that when you decide to go on pension, there can be some good money for you when you can't actually wake up and go to work. Well, I'm walking to my HR department to get that information. Have a good afternoon.